girls in our family were more, they weren't frowned upon, but boys were more favored over girls. And oddly enough, she was the first grandchild total in our family. So she started a new generation for us. And she was adored her first year when she was born. And then my brother was born a year later. And after that, everything about her just became a shadow. So she was basically taught to push her feelings aside for the boys in our family. And she couldn't go outside and have friends or do anything because she had to raise us because she was the oldest. And our parents, they really liked to go out and do things like party and stuff because they were young when they had us. Like my cousin was born when she was born. My aunt was 16 when she was born, and my mom was 16 when I was born too. So they were kind of young, and she didn't really know what to do when she was younger because she was just a kid, and she tried her best to try and teach us things, but she didn't really know things herself because nothing was taught to her. So everything she learned was basically on her own. And when we were younger, we all lived in the same house, but it was a small house. It was like 2 bedrooms, and we didn't really have time to play, I suppose. Like, she would have, say if she got out of school, she'd have to come get us, and then she would have to help us do homework, and if she didn't, she would get in trouble by her mom, and she couldn't go outside because she had to help us and learn how to cook for us and feed us. And it was basically the same way when I got older. Like my brother, he never graduated, and he kind of just dropped out in middle school, I guess. Like he didn't go to high school or anything. So my mom always took me as her golden child. I had to stay inside and not have friends, not go outside and play because I had to do homework and get my grades high so she could have someone to say that made it through high school. So after my cousin graduated high school, she decided to go to TCC, just like me. And she got a job after she graduated high school, and so did I. So we both learned how to balance between work and school. But the summers between our high school year and college year, we tried to work as much as we could in order to save money up for school. And then when school started, we had to control our hours at work and everything so we could focus more on school. And now she has a child, and she's trying to teach her daughter to become, like, she's trying to be the best mother she can, but her mom wasn't a good mom at all, so she doesn't really know how to be a mom. So she's trying her best, but her mom is very crucial on her about it, and she's very judgmental about it, and she's constantly bringing her down about how terrible of a mom she is. And I think she's a great mom, to be honest, because she hasn't, like, her daughter is perfectly healthy and fine, and I love her daughter to death. But anyways, she showed me that although if you get bullied in high school because you're smart, like her and I did, but we got bullied by our own family members because we were smart, which didn't make any sense to me. But that's how things went in our house. Like my brother and her brother, they would tease us because we had high grades and they were dropouts. So me and her, we're the only, since my aunt and my mom, since their generation, we're the only 2 that actually have high school diplomas, because my aunt and her mom and my mom never went to high school. Like my aunt dropped out her senior year and my mom dropped out her freshman year. But yeah, we both made it through high school, and she basically taught me to be someone who can take judgment but doesn't take it to an extent. Like I can learn to improve, take judgment in a good way, not a bad way, just like destroy people in a way because they hurt my feelings because they judge me. That's not how I am. And she told me that people are always going to judge me no matter what, and it doesn't matter because they're not the ones who are going to be in my future. They're not the ones paying my bills. I'm the ones paying my bills. So she basically was like a mom to me, because my mom, she was what she had to do, and that was it. She paid bills, and that was it. Like, she didn't teach me anything. She didn't help me do my homework. It was my cousin. And now she's a registered nurse, and she's trying to further her education in the medical field, and she's learning how to better herself in a way, because her husband makes a lot more money than she does, but she's fine with that because she's trying to get up there too, because she doesn't like to be a housewife, so to say. She likes to make her own money and do her own thing, and that's kind of that's how I am. I don't like for people to pay for my stuff for me, and it's always been a problem for some reason. People don't like that about me, but it's like I can pay for it myself. So in the end, she is like my big sister. She inspired me to further my education and go on with my life and not worry about what other people think, because it doesn't matter what they think, basically. And she taught me that certain things in life will go by, and our past is something that we can't hold on to us. Like, we can't judge our future on our past, because the past is the past, and we learn from the past, and we learn from mistakes and pain. And she went through a lot of pain as a child, and so did I. We both had to realize that just because we're girls in our family doesn't mean that we're at the end of the stick. Like, we matter too, but to our family members, we don't matter. And she will always be someone that I look up to, even when we're old and we don't communicate with each other. And I still love her to death. And I wish I could live with her instead of my mom, but I can't. So yeah.
Alright, below the polar ice cap aboard the USS Billfish, loud banging and the jolting and swinging submarine sent a panic across the crew. Everybody's freaking out all over the place, and there's a young culinary specialist who sits down on the mess decks and starts to write a letter to his parents. This young guy, his name's Ron Mills, was aboard the ship whenever it was taking from the East Coast over to the West Coast through the Arctic Circle. And as it would try to surface, it was hitting nothing but ice, and it was stuck down there for 2 days without radio communication. And you're talking about grown men crying, thinking they're going to die. And it was just a really scary time, pretty much the worst thing you think of when you're on a submarine. But they ended up surfacing and surviving, and this young man, Ron Mills, would grow up to do so much more in his time in the military. He was going to be invited to White House Christmas parties, and he was going to be a personal chef for President Bush for 8 years. He was going to study at the Culinary Institute of America, and he was going to eat an awkward undergrad here in Norfolk, but we'll get to all that later. So in early life, in 1976, Ron was born in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. And you can tell by looking at his picture, he's really white, but if anybody asks him where he's from, he'll say he's Cuban, even though he was just born on a military base. His dad was stationed there. Back in the 70s, Guantanamo Bay was where they housed Haitian refugees who were escaping from Haiti with political issues and, you know, all the poverty that was going on there. And now we know it as, you know, the prison camps for detainees from like the Middle East or terrorists. So he was born there, and he was a military brat. So he grew up, you know, all over the United States, and, you know, lived in Spain. And eventually his dad was stationed in Alaska, Adak, Alaska, which is now closed down, but it was a military installation that served as like a listening post during World War II, and is crucial for defense and offense against Japan during the war. So anyways, it used to be a naval base that's since closed down. That's where he went to high school and graduated, and I think that's kind of responsible to like the amazing man he was going to become, because he lived in this remote place. There was no drugs, you know, it's a small community, graduated with like 12 kids. There was no temptation, and it was kind of perfect. graduated high school, he moved to Anchorage, and there he decided to enroll in a college. And instead of taking math and English, he decided to take like wilderness survival and taxidermy and all kinds of weird stuff. So, I mean, he still isn't good at math or English, but he could build you an igloo. That's kind of cool. So he decided to join the Navy, and I know there's probably a lot of military brats and veterans in here too. He was offered a whole lot of money to go on subs. So he took the job as a cook on a sub, which sounds to me terrible, but it was a lot of money. And it gave him all these great opportunities. So he stuck out, like he just shined, he did so well. He was always selected to do schools and do all these great things, and they even did the Discovery Channel did a special on like living on subs, ship life on subs, and he was featured, he was starred in it. And that was back in like the 90s, the mid-90s. So from, living in Connecticut and decommissioning a sub and going to another sub, doing the Arctic Circle and like all these, seeing the world on the subs, he was hand-selected to go and cook for President George W. Bush, 43rd president, at Camp David, which is the presidential retreat, which is in Frederick County, Maryland. And sorry. So he was at Camp David for 4 years, and he finished his time there, and the president requested that he stayed for an additional 4 years. And being there, he cooked for all kinds of foreign dignitaries. He cooked for Vladimir Putin, he cooked for the president of Afghanistan, the president of Egypt, just Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, like anybody you can think of, because President Bush would host a lot of people there. And I know it's not everybody's favorite president, but it's just an amazing experience. And he got to do all that because he was confident. He was so good at everything he put himself to. So fast forward a little, he leaves Camp David and gets stationed aboard USS Kearsarge here in Norfolk. And that's where young Cristina is stationed aboard the same ship. And we became quick friends. And we did deployments together, and I was just such an anxious person. I still am, obviously very anxious, and such a nervous person. And like there was this guy who was so invested in building my confidence when like I've never in my whole life like had anybody just care the way he does. So I don't know, he's just such a huge important part of my life. Like we have so much in common. I was stationed in Cuba. Like I lived all over the world as a military brat. The only thing I lacked was his confidence and drive that he has been instilling in me for years now, and that is why I'm able to even stand up here today, even though I'm terribly nervous and I followed up like the best speaker ever. But